Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Credible Perspectives. We're still having a conversation around e-mobility, and today we're joined by Ms. Thatcher Mweu, who is the operations lead at Mazi Mobility, and she will tell us more about what they do, what she does, and everything around financing and electric mobility. Karibu sana.
Awesome. Thank you for coming.
Asante. How did you find yourself in the e-mobility world?
Well, I mean, that's a very interesting question, Sabu. In my career trajectory, I've always found myself in tech startups within the continent. So when I was looking at what's transition next, so I did a stint in management consulting for about 2 years. And in there, I actually looked at the industries that interested me the most. So there was logistics, there was education, there was health. And eventually I decided to go into logistics because that's where I saw the most need for solutions. And most of the things that I did were around courier services and, app to provide sort of better services for people ordering things online, better warehousing services, fulfillment services. But then in the midst of all that, I noticed that a lot of couriers and even fleet management companies were getting very frustrated with, the fuel prices going high, for example, or the inability to save on purchasing more fleets. And then also you have the additional bit of pollution, because I'm a fanatic of everything planet friendly, So I decided that within all this, I'd look for an industry still within transport. So I was torn between transport and health. Okay. So eventually decided to go into transport, look at a tech-enabled solution that played around circular economy or even, solving for climate change, but then also being beneficial to people. Okay. So livelihoods of people. And that's how I got involved in the EV space. So started looking into our EV ecosystem within Kenya, and then started looking into companies that dealt with that and landed in Mazi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about what Mazi does.
Yes. So if in the plainest of terms, Mazi is like the petrol station of the EV world. And what does that mean? It means creating infrastructure for all to use. So we are very focused on interoperable infrastructure, meaning that not just a Mazi bike can use the swapping station. We want all partners, all players in the EV ecosystem to use swapping stations, so that there's that, I'm not sure if you've heard the term range anxiety, right? So where guys are like, oh, I can't use the EV bike, or I can't use an electric bike because I'm not sure how far it will go. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is actually solve that, not only for Mazi, but all the other players within the EV ecosystem. Okay. So that's what we do. Yeah.
So there's synergy between you and the other companies that provide the same solution.
Exactly. All so, right. I mean, it's taken a while to get there. But currently we have 6 players utilizing our swap stations, and we are looking for more partners. Okay. And what this means is that, we have to look at what really matches, right? Because if you look at the EV space, there are different types of things. So there are different chargers, there are different batteries, So we have to go into, okay, so who exactly can work with us and how can we make that work? Okay. Does it mean that we're finding the same charger for everyone, or does it mean that we're fitting our batteries to solve the needs for all these other companies? And fortunately, we found people who've gotten us to that milestone of proving that actually interoperability can be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And we're looking for more partners.
They've had. Did you not get any during the roundtable last week?
Well, actually, during the roundtable, there are a lot of our partners there. Okay. And we did have conversations with some people who've seen what Mazi has done. Because, when something is new, people tend to doubt it a little bit. But during the roundtable last week, we actually talked to 2 companies that want to start working with Mazi. And we had started these conversations a while before. And that's why I said it's taken a while to get here. And thankfully, because now they've seen actually this thing works, can we pick up where we left? Okay. And then push the conversation and get riders swapping with Mazi stations.
All right.
So it's nice.
It's nice. I hope for the best for you, though.
Thank you.
May you get all the deals and all the partners that you need.
Thank you. Because there are teams that put in a lot of effort to make sure everything works for everyone. Yeah.
Mazi introduced the mobility as a service.
Yes.
MaaS.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so historically, Mazi started as a bike company. So Mazi started with bringing in parts here, assembling the bikes here, and then selling them. And then the company quickly realized that actually there is a gap. That range anxiety. There is a gap in that because people were not picking up the bikes as initially the company hoped for. And the main issue was that there wasn't a place to swap, or it was not clear where swapping stations would be. And this was a problem not only for Mazi but other ecosystem players. And so once the company saw that this was a need, there was that natural shift. So it wasn't hard for the company to pivot because it was just natural that we needed this, other players needed this, and that's where that shift happened. And we're seeing now more and more uptake for the swapping stations. So in terms of mobility as a service, it's all rounded, yes. While at the core, we have the swapping stations. We want to be, again, the petrol stations of the EV space. We also consider ourselves as, yes, batteries as service, but then we also have some fleet that riders can pick up, both our fleet and then partners' fleets. Yeah.
Seeing as there was a pivot at some point, how did that work, especially with financing? Let me just leave it at that so that I can open it up as much as you can.
Yeah, the challenge with the EV sector when it comes to financing is that, historically, investors want a quicker return of investment. And, especially how we've seen with the climate space and, the funding space in the most recent years.
Yeah.
So if an investor did not see, the unit economics did not make sense, and rightfully so, then, it would be harder for an investor to buy in. And, fortunately or unfortunately for us, the EV space was still new.
Yeah.
And so what we did was that we focused a lot on blended financing, especially concessional debt and also grants. And grants really did come through when the company was still in the R&D phase. And I think primarily it was because grants tend to be performance-based most often.
Yeah.
So there was that bit of, deliverables tied to the grants. And that definitely did push the company to, do well in the R&D, figure out what works for the market. And also in turn, provided insights for the industry in general. So when it comes to financing, while it might have been challenging, Mazi did the route of, focusing on grants. And now, as we're in the fundraising phase, we're looking at concessional debt and, a little bit of equity. But equity has come much, much later in the game when we've already figured out what it is that we want to really, really focus on. Yeah.
So when you're looking for, say, partners as you currently are, how do you intend on managing the financing bit? Are they coming in as the financiers, or are you going to use the equity route, or will it be the concessional debt route? What are you hoping to see?
Yeah, so when you speak of partners, so we have partners on the swap station side and then partners on the funding side. So we'll generally call those investors, right? For partners on the station side, we're looking at people who will host our swapping stations for us. And while we were still figuring our footing, we looked at, non-conventional players in this space. So we're looking at people with the right infrastructure, accessibility, what exactly we'd needed, but then also who'd be more willing to try things out. So more adaptable, people who'd be willing to try and say, hey, look, this works, this doesn't work for us, let's move on. Fortunately, the people we started with, we're still going strong with. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And we're looking to even now expand our base to work with petrol stations, for example, because initially we got feedback on how to better improve our swapping station infrastructure and, safety things and all that, so that we make it viable for petrol stations to look at us. So that's the next phase we're going into. When it comes to investors, I believe we're outside the grant phase. Now we're more into the debt/equity phase. And that's what we're looking to go with as we're going into the investment season.
All right.
Yeah, or fundraising season.
Fundraising season.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing from you as well is that partnership does not necessarily mean financing. If someone has land somewhere or someone has a fuel station in the middle of nowhere and they're willing to provide space for you, that can work.
Yeah.
Has that worked before?
It's worked before. I think one of the bigger myths to demystify
we love that here.
is that we need a big space. We actually do not need a big space because from a structural perspective, our swapping station is about 2 meters squared.
Okay.
So in essence, we need about 6 meters squared for our automated station because we have an allowance for, our technicians to do maintenance, riders to come in and swap. So we have that allowance. So you're looking at between 9 to 15 meters squared.
Yeah.
And then for our manual stations, we need about 15 to 25 meters squared. So it's not that big of a space.
Okay.
So we are looking at smaller spaces, but other players in the EV space, especially bus companies, will look at land. But for Mazi specifically, we're looking at much smaller places, have 3-phase connection, for example, easily accessible, security, that type of thing. So partners do indeed mean, if you have space for us, give us the space. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You said something very interesting, that local realities matter.
Yes.
And we need to stop making policies with ideas from out of this world and not looking at what's actually currently happening on the ground. Why? What is it that shocked your system so much that had to find its way to the world?
Yeah, I think the thing that shocked me the most was that there is a disconnect between policies that are discussed, policies that are in the draft phase, and what's actually being seen as we're implementing. So from the perspective of being an operations lead, we hear a lot about, the e-mobility tariff meter and then, certifications for technicians to install our swapping stations. But then now when we follow this up, it turns out everybody has a different story, right? And, our utility partners have done a really good job of trying to keep up with the trends and, writing policies that will inform or should inform the general national policy. But you go from not even a county perspective, a regional perspective, you go into one office and they say, look, we have this tariff and you can apply it this and this way. I mean, it's taken us, we're still in the application process of an e-mobility tariff, right? And if you ask anyone in this space, what's the process? It's not exactly clear. I mean, if I give the example of, I don't know, applying for, or even paying for your tokens, that is very clear. You do this, there's a pay bill or, whatever it is, and then you pay for that. But then you ask, how do you apply for that tariff meter? Yes, there is a policy, but it's not really clear. And then now you go outside Nairobi and different counties don't know that this actually exists. And we saw this when we went to Naivasha for a convening, which was really, really good because then these convenings are meant to spread information and have collaboration, give insights. But then it was really, really shocking to me that, some guys didn't know that there's an actual e-mobility tariff meter that they could apply for. So those are some of the things that shocked me that, yes, there are people who are working really, really hard to ensure that we can standardize things, but then that it doesn't cascade and translate to guys who are executing on the ground. Yeah.
Is that a communication thing or a lack of clarity? Do the people who are providing the tariffs, for instance, are they aware of it? If you go to I'm going to put them on blast for a bit here, Kenya Power Naivasha office, are they aware that this is something that's happening in Kenya Power Nairobi, for instance?
Okay. So, I mean, I think it could be a communication problem, but it could also be a problem of understanding the industry. Because remember, in as much as, EV has been around for a bit, it's still a nascent industry compared to our traditional motorbikes, for example. So maybe Naivasha is even too far. Like you just go into the Kenya Power Nairobi office, you have differing information from desk to desk, let alone floor to floor, right? It's lack of certainty on the implementation of particular policies or, in this case, a tariff. And I think what could work best would be, how information is shared within different teams across, whatever utility companies or other ecosystem players in general. However that information is shared, it needs to be shared. And individuals also need to commit to learning more. Because you see, I can share a document with you, but then if you don't learn about it, if you don't take time to read it, then there's that bit. And then accountability. So the same way we have L&D for companies, I'm sure, these companies have some sort of professional points that they need to earn, right? So how does a company, or in this case you mentioned KPLC, how does KPLC ensure that the team that's responsible for this thing actually reads the policy and spreads information as such, not only within Nairobi but also across different counties? And in that way, I mean, at the end of it, we'll find that everything is standardized from a county perspective, and then it makes it easier for each county to work together. And I guess, I mean, it would be remiss for me to say or not to say that counties need to work together. I mean, working in a silo is not an option.
I actually want us to go into that next. How many counties are you in?
So right now we're in 2 counties, Nairobi and Mombasa. And I mean, we've taken a bit of time to perfect our operations in Nairobi, such that when you do go into different counties, we know exactly what to look out for, right? And I think I'm comfortable to say that, we have learned our lessons. We are applying those lessons so that as we expand, we have a checklist of things to look out for, so that we know exactly what to do, exactly who to look for, especially in terms of regulation and policy perspective. And then also what we're looking for in terms of partners to host our stations.
So you said something about silos, working in silos, and specifically for counties. What has your experience been, considering you into? Is it a challenge that has made you guys not expand as much as you'd want to? And if so, why?
I think the issue of working in silos, especially from a county perspective, has not affected us as much. And I think it's primarily because we wanted to get our systems right internally before now starting to expand to other places. Because, I mean, if you're to scale successfully, you really need to get your things together, right? And that's something that we focused on at Mazi. And then now as we're scaling, it's really touch and go. Like, we need this person. Can we look for this person? And the situation we found ourselves in is that actually county governments would be looking for us to give insights on, hey, by the way, we saw you guys went to this different part of Nairobi. What exactly did you do? And, the case with Mombasa, for example, it's still a new thing. I mean, in as much as we're talking about EVs, in Kenya, it's very much concentrated in Nairobi. So you find that, yes, while we're going to Mombasa, yes, people are interested in EVs, but then you find that the county government is like, well, we're not exactly sure. So, I mean, we're lucky enough to be in the position of providing insights for the county government. And, we hope to be key players in forming how things will be done and pointing out best practices so that we can inform scale not only in Mombasa, but also in other counties and also countries within the region.
A bit back to financing. Apart from the debt, equity, and grants, what system is likely to work in Kenya?
I see. I think, so if you look at, Mazi as a company, so we look at those financing tools that you've mentioned. But if we're looking at the individual, we need to consider the fact that not everything is as streamlined or as formalized as we would hope or like it to be, right? So things that would work in Kenya in terms of financing individuals would be things that consider both the informal and formal setups. What do I mean by that? We've seen that SACCOs, for example, it took a really long time for them to be recognized as formal places to get money. We have the chamas that people are in. So that's one example of an informal thing. Like for us, we could say that that's formal because, you're accountable. There's some chamas that have rules and regulations. But then if you're looking at an investor who does not necessarily understand what a chama is or a SACCO is, then that might be a challenge. So there needs to be that understanding of, okay, well, yes, there are formal ways of financing and there are informal ones. M-Pesa statements, for example, right? So things that work really well for the individuals are things that will find a way to factor in the fact that, you don't necessarily need bank loan to be able to afford an EV bike, for example.
Yeah. I'm stuck on that because you don't need, but the banks themselves are really struggling with understanding the electric mobility, the fleet, I like how you guys call them 2-wheelers, 4-wheelers,
yes,
3-wheelers.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting seeing how slow they are in taking this up. Yet the numbers are actually really high. The number of electric motorbikes are very high right now. The number of hybrid vehicles, for instance, even if we've not yet gotten to the point of purely electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles are quite a number in Kenya. So I'm still struggling to understand why the formal institutions, the banks, the SACCOs to some extent, are unwilling to offer a loan to someone who wants to buy an electric vehicle. And we know that this is the future. I don't know if you've had experience or conversations with them so that you can give us insight on what it is that is happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at banks, for example, banks are not risk takers, contrary to popular belief, right? Banks are not risk takers. By the time a bank is giving you a loan, you've provided evidence of, employment. You've provided your payment slips for the past, I don't know, what do banks ask for? 6 months, 1 year, whatever it is, an employment letter, for example. When you come to this side of comparing, when you come to this side of comparing that, all this information we provide to banks for a loan, you look at EVs, first of all, it's an industry that they don't understand. We found that most bankers tend not to understand the EV space. Again, it's a nascent industry, and they've not taken the time to understand. Now, to their credits, banks are beginning to appear more in workshops and, round tables because they want to better understand this. And I think they can see that the future is headed towards this way, right? So they better incorporate EVs in this space. But still, banks do not take risks. And for a new industry, there is a lot of risk involved there. And I mean, even for you individually, if you're not a risk taker, it's very hard for you to buy an electric bike, electric vehicle, if you truly don't understand, okay, so where am I charging? Where am I getting my batteries? Things like that. You want to see the infrastructure first before you buy. So in that same fashion, banks want to see before they now start putting their time and effort and even their money into the industry.
Right. Makes sense. Something else you mentioned earlier that I want us to pick up on a bit is circular economy. What is the role of electric vehicles or electric mobility in circular economy?
Yes. So, I mean, by nature, circular economy focuses on having regenerative practices, that will do well for the climate and also for people, right? So it's this symbiotic relationship between people and the planet. Whereby everything that's used, everything that's consumed can go back and be reused, be recycled, and find another purpose. And fundamentally, we have one of the principles in circular economy being reduction of waste and pollution. And EV does just that. So you look at pollution, air pollution, reduction of global, greenhouse gases. Sorry, I'm so used to saying GHGs. Greenhouse gases. EVs play a big part in that. And then you look at batteries, for example. Batteries can be extended for a second life, can be repurposed to be storage devices for energy. And then even for other different parts that can be repurposed, reused, and kept in the ecosystem for much longer. So EVs have a very, very big role to play in the circular economy. And the more we scale, the more the impact will be felt.
And so, since we're still discussing on financing and the circular economy, I want to see how I'll use a word you used, interoperability. This
interoperability.
is your area of expertise. So on one hand, we're trying to make sure that we recycle, we reuse, and especially the batteries and everything electric that comes from the bike or the car. On the other hand, we need financing, and how do we merge these two? Is what I'm asking. This might be very on the ground question, but that's just what came to mind as we're discussing this.
No worries. So how we can merge these, I think recognizing that we just can't fund EVs or an EV company as just having one asset.
Okay.
Right? Because if you look at, let's say, Mazi, for example, there is the bike, there is a battery, there is the swapping station, there is the hardware needed for the swapping station, there's the software needed for the swapping stations. So when things are separated, and if you as an investor, you look at battery as just one thing and then station as another thing and everything else as its own thing, then it becomes easier to look at unit economics. Because then if you bunch everything together, you wonder why is OPEX and CAPEX so high? But then if you separate all that, things begin making more sense, because there's some things that cost more than others. And all of them are very relevant. So when we come to funding and how we can make it work is, again, just look at things as individually as possible and not just bunching things as one asset.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. What would the government do right now to make life easy for you guys?
Yes. So the age-old question. So, I mean, the good thing to start with is that the government does recognize that the EV space is growing, right? And to make that even more scalable and easier to grow in, first of all, is standardized policies.
Yeah.
What are we saying when we say that there's an e-mobility tariff meter? What are we saying when we say, Mazi, you can now go to, Turkana, for example, right? And they're the same system set up in Turkana as they are in Nairobi.
Yeah.
So just standardizing things to make it easier for EVs or the EV space to expand.
Okay.
Just demystifying things.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Demystifying, that means we need a little more information, a little more education, a little more communication from the government.
Exactly.
Fair enough. In your wildest dreams,
yes,
what would you like to see happen in the mobility world?
Oh my goodness. In my wildest dreams.
Yes, there's no limitation. There's no financial limitation. There's no policy limitation.
I'd like to wake up and not hear engines. I know that sounds very
no, it doesn't. I understand
insane.
Because the pickies are the ones that wake us up.
Yes. I think in my wildest dreams, I'd say, maybe just to even put a figure to it, 99.9% adoption of EVs, be it buses, be it motorbikes, be it tuk-tuks, what have you, such that as a nation, we're moving towards really playing a big role in circular economy and reversing climate change, if I may say so. Yeah, that's in my wildest dreams. That's what I'd like.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any parting shots for us?
Any parting shots? Yes, interoperability is not a myth. It is happening. And let's collaborate, let's partner together to make interoperability a reality, not just a dream.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming for the conversation. This was great. It was great. I can't wait. Can't wait to see the EV grow, the space grow.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm now more interested than I was when we started this season.
Come visit Mazi, actually.
We will. So where are you located, actually?
We're in industrial area. Our HQ is in industrial area on Commercial Street.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll host you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you so much to our viewers for joining us in this episode. We'll see you in the next one.